Hello everyone and welcome to the presentation of the synthesis project Improving the AHN Gridded DTM DSM. Our team consists of 5 people: Martin, Lisa, Khaled, Manos and Christoph. The main supervisor of this project is Hugo Ledoux and Ravi Pides was helping. This project is in collaboration with the waterboards of the Netherlands and our main contact is Jeroen Luzing, the technical manager of the AHN project. A brief introduction to the topic. Currently, the PDOK webpage freely offers a raw point cloud and DTM and DSM raster images for the whole Netherlands in tiles as open data. The majority of people prefer to download the raster images instead of the raw point cloud because it is too big and complex to deal with. However, the DTM and DSM raster images have many flaws that must be fixed. The images are full of no data values. Gaps are visible where cars, houses and water bodies are located. More importantly, some isolated pixels can be found that have no data values, which are caused by the interpolation method that was used to generate the DTM and DSM. Our job was to fix these problems and improve the quality of the AHN3 DTM DSM. This was a difficult task to accomplish, since the Netherlands is a country that is known for its unique watery landscapes, large rivers and cities with canals. The AHN tiles cover the whole Netherlands, and so a code and a methodology that are consistent when processing all the tiles were needed to be designed. More student interpolation methods are needed to be developed and tested, and if possible, a hydro-flattening algorithm should be implemented to handle water bodies. The project was divided into 3 tasks: ground filtering and interpolation, hole filling and hydro-flattening, and scaling, which we will explain right now in more detail. For ground filtering, the national Dutch AHN3 LiDAR dataset is disseminated in the LAZ format and uses the LAS classification codes. Ground points are used for the generation of the DTM, while for DSM all points are used except water points. Initially we decided not to trust the AHN classification, and so we conducted a series of tests with other ground filtering algorithms. Specifically, we experimented with the LAS tools, the cloud compare software, and filters from the PDAL library. Using manually classified point clouds, we measured the accuracy of the results of the different ground filtering algorithms we tested. The analysis showed that the AHN classification can be trusted and that it was our best choice. This is mainly because we couldn't overcome some artifacts in the results of the other ground filtering algorithms without removing whole classes of points from the process. Thus, our final decision was to use the AHN classification, but first we filter out outliers and low noise points before moving forward with the interpolation. Overall, we implemented and tested 6 different interpolation methods, namely Laplace, TIN, Natural Neighbor, IDW, Quad-based IDW, and TIN with constraint Delaunay triangulation that uses polygons as constraints obtained via WFS requests from the 3D-BAS service provided on the servers of TUDEL's 3D Geoinformation Research Group. All interpolation methods were written in Python with the help of packages and software libraries with Python bindings. We visually and statistically compared the results of all these interpolation methods, both for DTM and DSM, in order to identify which ones provide the best results. We calculated the vertical differences between the raw AHN point cloud and the resulting raster images, and we computed the root mean square error and mean absolute error for each interpolation method. Our initial DTM and DSM results suffered from some artifacts that we fixed later with some post-processing flattening algorithms we developed. Laplace interpolation does not leave holes, except in the areas outside the convex hull of the underlying triangulation. However, we plan to introduce them manually, in a constrained triangulation, by adding the boundaries of holes such as lakes and canals as constraints. Unfortunately, this failed because too many LiDAR points fell within the holes, causing them to become triangulated and not represent real holes. It would have been too expensive to remove this computationally. Our final solution consists instead of first interpolating in the triangulation at the polygon vertices and taking the median of the interpolation values per polygon. Hence, its polygon is associated with a height that is based on its boundaries. This method was chosen as we wish to base the elevation of the holes primarily water bodies, on the elevation of their shores. The resulting extruded holes are then burned into the raster. Some polygons were treated with distinction. The client's requirement was to construct surfaces for large rivers which have a consistent slope orientation from source to outlet. We constructed an algorithm that can, for well-behaved river geometries, guarantee such surfaces in the output raster. The first few steps are semi-automatic. First, the operator selects the desired river polygons from the BPG dataset by their names manually. Then a Python script processes them to obtain their skeletons, and then another one prunes them. As branches cannot be removed altogether via pruning, shortest path analysis is then carried out in QGIS to obtain skeletons with all branches removed. From then on, the process is fully automatic. The skeletons and river polygons are overlain in Python, and lines perpendicular to the skeleton are cast on it at its vertices. As shown in this figure, each such line is intersected with the river polygons, and the closest intersection in both directions from the skeleton is used to construct line segments on the line that are effectively river cross-sections. Each cross-section is associated with an elevation by interpolating at their three vertices in the tin inherited from the primary Laplace triangulation. In the next step, the river polygons are rasterized to form a mask that allows river pixels to be identified. All the river pixels are reinterpolated in the raster resulting from the first round of flattening. The interpolation process is as follows. For each river pixel, the two cross-sections in the river between which it falls search for. The procedure involves first drawing the shortest path from the river pixel to each cross-section, excluding them from consideration if this path crosses another cross-section as shown in the figure. Then, the two nearest cross-sections from the remaining candidates is picked, and the elevation of the point is established by inverse distance weighting, using the elevation of these two cross-sections and their distances from the given river pixel. The last stage is a moving window pixel patching step. The algorithm scans the raster, and for each pixel that it still has a no data value, it assigns a value based on its 8 neighbors if it has at least a minimum number of valid neighbor values. This is necessary because where basic flattening and river hydroflattening inserted values outside the convex hull of the tin constructed in the primary interpolation, tiny holes may have nucleated. This simple algorithm can patch this in with sufficient accuracy. Scaling focuses on two aspects of data processing: the sheer size of the data and how to reduce artifacts along borders when connecting different tiles. One of the first steps done was determining the tile connectivity between the different AHN3 tiles, as this allowed us to retrieve information for a tile from its neighbors later on. The size of the data was tackled by reducing the size of each tile that would need to be processed. This was done by splitting each AHN3 tile into 20 smaller tiles. This also allowed us to create a buffer around each tile, which is necessary to avoid artifacts around the borders of the tiles. All tasks were executed in a scalable framework, which allows for easy addition and adjustment of algorithms during the development process. The framework relies on different task workers which retrieve a new task from a queue. When they finish processing a task, they report the result and continue with the next task available in the queue. Depending on the workload of the algorithms, these workers process as many tasks as the number of available threads. In our case, this was limited to 5 workers working concurrently due to the memory bottlenecks we encountered. Most of the artifacts were avoided thanks to the buffers around each tile, but some new ones were introduced by water flattening. This is because for each subtile, the median value calculated for the water is slightly different, resulting in visible patchwork where water is present. This has been countered by running an extra post-processing step, which takes the final raster and applies the same water flattening step to it, taking the mean of the different patches of the water as its value. This ensures that for a single tile, all the available water polygons are equalized. After running for around 5 days, the program was able to process around 40 AHN3 tiles, creating both DTM and DSM outputs. It processed over 500 GB of data and used up to 100 GB of memory. To be able to process the whole Netherlands, The program would need to be efficient enough to process 1,100 tiles. Overall, the results of this project have been satisfying. As you can see, the DTM and DSM both have been improved compared to the original dataset. The accuracy of the already present data has not been reduced, while all the missing data have been given a representative value. The addition of water flattening has shown to be a great and necessary addition to the pipeline. Having this method as part of the processing pipeline adds a lot of value, especially for a water-rich country such as the Netherlands. Currently, the available water polygons are used to do so. However, we believe it should be possible to do so entirely with algorithms, which was proven in a small proof of concept we have discussed in more detail in our report. One of the remaining challenges is to be able to process all of the AHN3 tiles within the Netherlands. We set out to be able to process all 155 tiles within South Holland, and we have been able to process around 30 tiles as DSM and about 50 tiles as DTM. The memory bottlenecks encountered were more severe than initially expected, thus resulting in being able to run less threads and having fewer completed DTM-DSM tiles. Nevertheless, the main goal of this project has been to improve the AHN grid DTM-DSM, which has been a success. All of our code is available as open source code and it can be found as a GitHub repository. Thank you for listening and we hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, let us know during the Q&A session.
To make this remark, we do not train the students in making very nice videos. Yes. So I have to speak again, what? Very good. Okay, well, we are back. We are now in the chat room where we're going to answer the questions of the audience. I must say it's very impressive video, and also the research that's presented was quite impressive. And I must guarantee the audience that we're not training the students here in making these nice videos. So impressive. Anyway, some questions we have already. We have a question by Jeroen Leusing, who's the supervisor from the Waterschaphuis. He asked, how long would it take you to generate the whole Netherlands?
Yeah, so I can answer that. I'll grab a quick graphic, which wasn't in the video, but is available in our report, and I will share that. So if Mels can pick that up, that would be great. So this is an overview of the different steps that are taken to generate the final result. And as you can see, currently all the steps are reasonably optimized, except for the DSM step, which is mainly a limitation of using Python and using a lot of data. So for the whole of the Netherlands, the estimate right now is kind of disappointing, would be around a month of processing, I guess. All right. That's okay. I'll just wait for the figure to appear. Yeah, there we go. Okay, cool. Yeah, so as I was saying, the DSM is the step that takes the most time, mostly because of Python, because it's just calculating a value for each raster cell. So it needs to go over a bit over 6 million raster cells. So that takes a lot of time. So right now, the whole of the Netherlands would be around a month. But if the DSM processing were to be reduced, then this could be brought down to probably somewhere around a week, I guess. But it's hard to say.
So a week for the entire Netherlands. Very good. A question by your supervisor, Hugo Ledoux. How do you deal with a potential shift between the AHN3 and the Bach BGT polygons?
Yeah, so just to recap on what we use these polygons for. We use Bach, which are building footprints, to work. Has it loaded?
Yeah, works.
All right. Just to clarify, we didn't use the Bach building footprints in the final configurations because for that we would have needed a better match with the point cloud, and because our algorithm was meant to be used primarily with water bodies. So the way it works is it picks I guess it interpolates the vertices of the polygons inside of the primary interpolations TIN framework, and then it takes the median of those values. So even if there are a couple of mismatches in terms of where the vertices that are interpolated, so they can, for instance, if it's a lake or if it's a canal, it might slightly overlap with a street, and that could be problematic. But because the majority of the boundaries or vertices would still be in the right area, and because we take the median in the end, the result would still be satisfying. And one thing that we could do to eliminate this issue, I think, so this is not explicitly dealt with in the code because it hasn't caused any major issues. But one idea I had, just reading this question, would be to use the default classifications of the AHN to select specific points. This would of course just this would only be available for DSM, because for DTM generation we pre-filter the data for ground points, so there we couldn't rely on classifications. I think that answers the question, but whoever asked the question, please, yeah, Hugo, if you have more detailed questions about this, then please do go ahead and state it in the YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for this answer. Moving on to the next question, because lots of questions. Very good. A question by Robert Fouten. His question is, did the water surfaces themselves give you difficulties?
Yeah, so maybe Lisa can elaborate a bit on how she created those water polygons.
Yeah, so it did in the first part give us more difficulties because there are not much LiDAR points in the water. So that's why we decided to go with with finding polygons. So we did go over a few data sets, such as the BGG, and some others. But what we wanted is for the hydroflattening to have the rivers separately. So therefore we were searching for a polygon set where the different polygons were classified differently. And so the BGG was the solution to that. And from there on, it wasn't that much of a difficulty, because then we could use the not river polygons to do the normal interpolation on, and that helped a lot.
To elaborate on that a little bit, the Baker here is another data set on PDOC, which has good quality polygons for water. It has further classifications for types of water bodies and even sub-classifications for names of rivers. So we could use that to distinguish between, for instance, rivers and lakes and canals, which was useful for deciding how to treat which water body. I guess we had 3 classifications. We had big water bodies such as lakes and the shores of the North Sea, and we had canals and all the rest of the stationary water bodies and then rivers, which we hydroflattened.
Very good. Thank you very much for your answer. We move to the next question, and the question is by Rafi Peters, also one of your supervisors. He's asking you, you mentioned in your report that the different AHN tiles are classified by different parties. Did you investigate the different qualities that resulted? So will your method work equally well for all AHN tiles?
Shall I answer that, Manus? Yeah. Okay. Hear me well?
Yep.
So to cover all the point cloud like that is collected by different parties, we tried to investigate on tiles from different areas in the Netherlands. So, for instance, we got from Biesbos, like the Biesbos city, and one from in Amsterdam, one in Delft, and one in Groningen. And the quality showed overall like similar, like equal quality. Like the investigation showed equal quality for all the point cloud classification at these areas. But specifically, like which party collected which point cloud, we haven't investigated that specifically. I don't know if that answers your questions, but in general, the algorithm should work with similar, should result in similar quality output for the whole country.
So, okay, you addressed that in your report. Another question by Rafi is, you mentioned building flattening in the report, in addition to hydro flattening. Why would you do building flattening?
Can I answer that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So this was not our own idea. The reason why we proposed to flatten buildings was because our client himself stated that this would be good. They are, at the client company, familiar with tin-based interpolation methods, even though AHN3 used IDW, which is very different from the tin-based methods. But even though the tin-based methods are continuous across holes such as building footprints in DTMs, they result in, especially the simplest ones, such as linear interpolation inside of tins, can result in triangles appearing even in the interpolated rasters. So that was a particular interest to the client to try to eliminate those. And his original suggestion was to, instead of interpolate inside of the holes, we try to figure out how to just give them a constant elevation, which would constitute flattening the building footprints. And we tried this, but there were 2 concerns. So if we treat them the same way as we treat the water bodies, their elevations are not just rough estimates, they are wrong estimates, because building elevations should not be decided based on the elevations, interpolated elevations of their boundary vertices. It should rather be based on all the LiDAR points which are found inside of the interior of those footprints, and that is really computationally expensive. So we didn't, in the end, try this. Well, we did try it, and it proved to be too expensive. And we used methods such as natural neighbor interpolation and Laplace interpolation, which do not yield such disruptive triangles inside of the end results. So we did not think that it was a serious enough aesthetic concern to justify the extra computational expense.
Super. Thank you very much. I think it's about time for the final question. There's a question by Peter van Oostrom, professor at our university. Could you sketch your algorithm to detect the water bodies from the LiDAR and not needing external data sets?
So I can try to answer this question. We didn't really go into it, so it would be a really basic algorithm. So, but while in water bodies there are not that much LiDAR points, and some points are even classified as water bodies or water points. So what you could do is, like, if you have big holes, like if there is in a radius of certain points no data or no other points, you can get the boundary, like with an alpha shape or something like that get the boundary of a hole. And if there is like one or maybe more water points in there, you could say that those are water points. And that would work for all the big water bodies, but really small water bodies where there are no water points in, it would be kind of difficult to decide if those are water bodies or something else, like maybe something that was moved, or yeah, I don't know. So for the big water bodies, it wouldn't be that hard, but for the smaller, it would be really difficult to extinguish them from different things.
Thank you very much. Normally you would get a big applause from the audience, but the audience is, well, it's there, but they're not applauding for you. So I guess I'll do that for you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's really good. So we say goodbye to you now, and we get prepared for the presentation of CGI, which is entitled From Indoors to Outer Space, Graduating and Working at CDI. Will be 2 minutes before we will be back to you.